That's what I call pro talk. When you really don't know the answer, you just make it up.
My rut is that I am in a rut.
To get the pilot of Red Arrow going. This is really a way to skip class.
I want to say, hey, those boys right there are entertainers.
There you go. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said on this podcast.
Alex Rutledge here with American Roots Outdoors TV.
Hey, this is Lee and Tiffany Lukoski from the Crush TV.
Hi, I'm Don Higgins.
This is Jeff Lindsay.
Hey, everybody, this is Mark Drury with Drury Outdoors.
Hey, this is Craig Fitz of Trained Assassins TV. You're listening to Dave and JP on Pro Talk Outdoors, the craziest two I know.
Hey everybody, Pro Talk Outdoors. I know we haven't been turning quite as many episodes as what we normally do in various parts of the year.
Man, it's because we've been on a grind, a hardcore grind.
Every day we're hustling.
Oh man,
especially you this weekend and kind of last week. The last 2 weeks you've really turned it up.
I would say the last 3 weeks. Well, no, not really the last 3 weeks.
You had a very light season up until the last 2 weeks.
I didn't hit it hard, and then the last 2 weeks. Well, I walk in the door here today. And you say, man, you looking awful good, Dave. Y'all dressed up? But no, man, I'm just not wearing camo for the first time in 2 weeks. I mean,
well, you and I both have less than ideal facial hair, and you've kind of grown yours out a little bit, and I've been thinking about doing it, and we both we just look a little straggly, man. I'm
all in on No Shave November, and right now I'm looking about like a 12-year-old, maybe 13-year-old Amish kid. I'm just all straggly and stuff.
There's butter to churn somewhere.
Yeah, I guarantee it.
Oh man, but it's been an interesting season for Pro Talk Outdoors and In a Rut. We got off to a much different start than what we did last year. We had nothing cooking in September, and we had nothing cooking in October. What day was it that Eric harvested ish? I think it was November 2nd.
November 2nd.
So it took us a long time to get our first deer down. And the same day that he shot ish.
Well, Jason Campbell killed one on opening day in Kentucky.
Campbell. And I filmed one in Tennessee going down.
Yeah.
Wasn't my kill, but.
Yeah. But, we definitely slow out the gate, and but Eric kind of got the ball rolling.
He did, and I had an encounter that day that set me up for what is already a successful season for me, just based on one harvest. But
well, let me kind of throw this out here from my point of view. So I filmed Eric's kill, and and the shot was a little bit back, angle wasn't great, so we had to give him some time, and we're over here. We're blood trailing. We're looking for this deer, and the whole time, it's like every half an hour or something, maybe 15 minutes, I'm getting a text message from JP that say, I'm thinking, man, he might need to be on suicide watch right now. He's like, I screwed that up, man. That's the worst thing I ever done in my life. I can't believe I screwed that up. I'm horrible. I'm gonna sit here all day. I don't know what I should do. This is just a bad deal. I can't believe I did this. I'm like,
I had plans of coming to Kentucky. The four of us, you and I and Eric and Craig, we were all going to meet in Kentucky, and I scrapped all of my plans after that mistake. Essentially what had happened, and I hope you guys watch In a Rut next season to see it unfold. I decided that I wanted to do 2 rattling sequences and see what happened. I did them 15 minutes apart, and after the second one, I waited my 15 minutes. At 11 o'clock on the dot, I said, man, nothing's cooking right now. I'm going to get down for lunch and come back for an afternoon sit. I'm taking the microphone off the camera, and at 11:01, the ghost appears underneath my stand, looking for the rattle, looking for what was going on. And luckily, I kept my wits about me enough to be stealthy to where he never saw me. Nothing like that. But by the time I got the camera back on the arm and got my bow, he was at 60, maybe 65 yards, and he was kind of in some thick stuff, and you can just barely see him in the video. And, I threw the kitchen sink at him to no avail.
Yeah, I just watched this footage for the first time here right before
you were cringing.
Oh, my.
You felt my pain.
Yeah, it was, it's like, JP, you might as well quit, man. It ain't happening.
Oh, yeah.
He checked out.
But I spent the next several days trying to figure out in my mind how to outsmart this buck, get one step ahead of him, and kill him, and make my wrong right. And it seems to me that so much of deer hunting is not just you chasing the the mature deer, but it's a mental battle with yourself. And I really learned that over the course of a few days. And this is a small property I was hunting the very first time I've really ever hunted it. And I went from the creek bottom where I had seen him, and I ascertained and looked at the forecast that the following Thursday had an east wind, cooler temperatures than what we had been having, and a rising thermal with a high pressure coming in that morning. I thought, man, if I can get in there in the morning and get set up, not bump anything out, maybe by midday that thermal rising is going to bring the scent of the does that I had a high concentration of in that creek bottom up to that ridge. And perhaps this mature deer knows that, and he's going to run that ridge to scent check. And unbelievably, I had the greatest hunt of my life. I had just a dozen deer all morning just running around all over the place. I had grunts. I shot a coyote, disposed of the body.
I was just saying, we're going to have to back up just a little bit now. I mean,
it was intense.
Here's the thing. I want to say that kudos to you because you absolutely performed flawlessly. You textbook figuring a big buck out, moving in on him when the time was right, and getting it done. Absolutely wonderful job there. But you got to back up a little bit.
Because I shot a doe the night before?
The night before, it was like JP up until that point was like, man, my season sucks. This has just been terrible. And then I shot a doe. Then it was the next morning, ghost busted. Then it was like,
coyote.
Yeah, shot a coyote. And then it was like, well, I got the ghost. I'm thinking, my gosh, man.
It was,
you know, I was like, I'm coming over to help film the recovery. If I get over there, and I'm not kidding, folks. JP has one arrow in his quiver.
I shot everything else.
He done threw the whole arsenal and everything out there. If it was moving, it was getting shot by JP that week.
Well, I don't know if I've told this on the podcast or not, but when I was growing up, we had some land, and and when you have land, you have varmints that show up, and they're messing stuff up, whether it's a garden or with your dog or your pond or whatever. It's messing stuff up.
Right.
And Dad's alter ego, if you would, when he had to do varmint busting was Mr. Gilroy. And I told Dave on Wednesday that week, I said, it's Mr. Gilroy's coming out this weekend. And it was the greatest weekend of hunting of my life. And I hope I can top it one day, but I feel so relieved to have righted so many wrongs on so many levels that just a couple days in a row.
You definitely were on one hell of a roll. Yeah. There's no doubting about that.
But it's not over for me. It's not over for you. You've harvested a buck as well. If you guys haven't, get on the Facebook page for us and check out these harvests that we've had this year. Scroll through, take a look at what we've been up to. But your hunt was pretty good as well.
Yeah, it wasn't typical. Well, I don't know. I guess maybe if there's anything typical about me that's not going to be typical with my hunts.
Your typical is the closer.
Yeah, on November the 8th, I passed up this 4-year-old. He comes in underneath me, and I've passed up some pretty good deer this year, and he walks in right underneath my stand, and I passed him up, and immediately as he walked out, I turned the camera back to me, and I was like, I might regret that one. I mean, and here's the thing, folks. He's not going to score anything. He's just an old gnarly buck. He doesn't have any kind of headgear whatsoever.
He did. It's just broken off.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I probably shouldn't have passed him up. And I thought about that for like the next week to 10 days. I thought, man, if I see that deer again, I'm probably going to shoot it. And then I went back in 10 days later, and I had one heck of a hunt. I had 2 hot does that were just running laps around me all evening long, and I saw 7 different bucks, but one of the bucks that come in was this 4-year-old, and he was just absolutely tearing the woods up. I mean, it was like a bulldozer running through there. He was rubbing every tree he could get to. He was making scrapes everywhere. I heard snort wheezes. I had lip curls. I mean, I had everything going on. Bleats. I had buck roars. I had all of it going on right around me. And this 4.5-year-old, we were playing a cat and mouse game. He was not too far away. I mean, he was within 50, 60 yards of me, but it's so thick in there. And self-filming is tough. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
I could either get the camera on him and not my gun, or I could kill him, but I couldn't get the camera on him. And it was just, I mean, for almost an hour this went on with this buck. And then, by the grace of God, just, 20 minutes of shooting light left. He pops out 30 yards from me, and then he runs to 20 yards, and he just stops. Just perfect for me. Broadside. And, I shot him, and he ran off 30 yards and fell over dead. So Closed that out, so my Indiana tag's filled. Todd, same day.
Yep.
Same day Todd killed Buffalo Boy, they call him over there, which I found Buffalo Boy's shed on the shed hunt.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember you finding that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, things are finally churning a little bit later than what you would expect, because we're already, what is today, the 20th of November when we record this episode. Typically, this is when it's slowing down, but hopefully we've still got some tags to fill.
Yeah.
All of us still have our Kentucky tags except for Eric.
Right.
You know, so there's 3 of us with a Kentucky tag. Wyatt still has his Indiana tag. There's things to be done still.
Yeah, we've got some tags to fill still, and I don't think I see any signs of anybody slowing down.
No, I'm on a mission for a particular buck in Kentucky, so I've got another wrong to right.
I tell you what, Bird's a big old boy.
Bird's in trouble if he gives me another chance. And we're going to leave that one where it is and maybe hopefully come back to it in a later episode. But before we get too far off track, we want to mention who we've got coming on today as a guest, is a guy who has won bass events in 4 different decades.
I'm excited about this one.
4 different decades. He's qualified for the Classic, I think, in 5 different decades, if I'm not mistaken.
Unreal.
He's a Hall of Famer by every respect of the imagination. Gary Klein coming on to talk to us about Major League Fishing. This is a Major League topic. We hope you'll stick around. You're listening to Pro Talk Outdoors. Hey everybody, welcome back to Pro Talk Outdoors, and like we teased in the opener, this is a guy that really doesn't need much introduction, a Hall of Famer in every respect of the word, Gary Klein. And Gary, thank you so much, number 1, for coming on with us, and number 2, I know you're pulling away from some of your deer hunting time right now, so that's something that's near and dear to our hearts as well, so we do appreciate it.
He pulled me away from it also, Gary.
Yeah, I tell you, driving up the driveway, I had a big stand-up 10-point standing there looking at me.
Oh man, it's almost like they just tease you sometimes.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. But it is that time of year, and not only is it a great time to hunt, but boy, the fishing's awful good right now too.
Well, man, I'm almost ready to get back into that zone.
I'll be honest with you, like. Normally in November, I never think about bass fishing. I just don't do it. But this year, for some reason, and it's probably because my spring and summer wasn't really good when it came to fishing. I didn't have a good year. I've been finding myself sitting on stand thinking about bass fishing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I had the opportunity to I fished a little 40-acre lake out here by my house. Saturday afternoon for about 6 hours, and it was a tough bite. Water's real cold, but normally when you figure out the bite, it's pretty special. And it took me about an hour, but I kind of figured it out. And at the end of all of that, I probably had a 30-pound plus stringer.
What was the bite? What'd you catch them on?
I caught everything on a Berkeley square bull, but the whole key was the speed of the retrieve, and those fish were real sluggish. Instead of, reeling it fast like I normally like to, I had to really slow down and just kind of reel it along, and you would feel them kind of let the air out of it, just kill the action, then they'd push it, and eventually they would get it. And almost every fish I caught was, caught on the back hook, barely hooked, but I caught a bunch of 6.5 pounders. It was fun.
Oh, wow.
Man, you're just wearing them out on a regular Tuesday kind of thing, and it's no big deal for you. I love it. I love it. Well,
I just have a passion for fishing, and just about every 3 or 4 days I start getting itching. I have to go fishing somewhere.
Well, what are they? Is it the Innovative Angler? Is that kind of your nickname over the years?
Yes, that is correct. I'm always one that always ask myself the question, what if, and how can you improve on things? I'm just never satisfied, and that's part of the love that I have for the sport, is just trying to get it right.
That's a perfect transition right there. You provided the best kind of segue we could go with. You're always thinking about how to make it better, and I have to think that is exactly what was going through your head when you helped create Major League Fishing. And to me, I'm a guy that's watched fishing and been a passionate angler my whole life. I'm 27, but just have absolutely loved fishing more than anything in the world since I was old enough to walk. And seeing guys like you on Saturdays, in the bass circuit and everything was just what I grew up watching a lot of times. But I know when you created Major League Fishing, that opened a whole new world for not just folks like me, but folks that maybe weren't as passionate about fishing as I was, and they could sit down and watch a 30-minute program or an hour program and really enjoy it because of the format you guys came up with.
Well, what you're saying is exactly correct. I have never had another occupation but competitive angling, and I really got involved in the sport when I was a sophomore in high school at the age of 15, living in Northern California, and I actually got to experience the competition. Guys were fishing out of, 14-foot aluminum boats, and they had 20-horse engines on them, and they paid a $25 entry fee, and first place was $500, and that really captured the attention of this 15-year-old sophomore. And I knew then that's what I wanted to do with my life, is be a professional angler, or at least try to make a living in the fishing industry. But that was in 1972, 73 when that occurred. And you talk about Major League Fishing, and you are correct. Major League Fishing originated from two anglers having a conversation in a parking lot at a fishing tournament, asking ourselves, what if? How could we really get this sport to the next level? And that's, the conversation that we continue to have today. And, of course, the other angler I'm talking about is Boyd Duckett. And Boyd and I started that conversation, and 9 years later, we are where we are today. But that conversation continues, and we have never wavered off of our direction. How can we take and create a sport out of competitive angling and make it recognized as a sport, and create a game that can be played by everybody across the country that enjoys fishing and has the same passion that we do for fishing? And that's the path that we're on. And it's just been a phenomenal ride. Sometimes it's hard for me to, get my head around it, but I'm really excited. I'm thrilled because we have evolved. And if you paid attention to our first Major League Fishing, it's changed very little from then until now. The format was something that I've had it in my head for years. I sat down and wrote it out on a notepad. It took me 30 minutes to write it out. And then once I wrote the format, it was easy for me to create the rules that went along with it. And most of that has changed very little.
What's so impressive to me, not only in coming up with something so innovative, is the use of technology. I really love that. And the score tracker update thing is something that it's almost like kids playing basketball in their driveway, and they yell buzzer beater, and they fire one up, a fade away from 20 feet away. Well, nowadays, when I'm in my boat and I catch one that's a good one, every once in a while, I'll mumble under my breath, or I'll say it out loud. I just score tracker update. I want somebody with an iPad sitting in my boat, just seeing what Buddy Dave is up to and how bad I'm beating
so
him.
Many times, I've said, well, that's a fish landing violation.
You have said that in my boat
I
before.
Absolutely have said fish landing violation. 2-minute penalty.
So it's crazy in a world that gets so caught up in pop culture and technology that you guys have found a way to take just a good old-fashioned outdoors activity and melded it in with something that's very relatable to people of all ages. So, I want to commend you for it and thank you for it, because it puts bass fishing in such a great light that if we don't thank you for the effort you've put forward, then we'd be very remiss.
Well, thank you very much. There is still so much more to come. This is just the beginning. We take our steps slow and methodical. Everything that Major League Fishing does is very well planned, thought out. We've got a great team that's all engaged, and we all have the same passion to get it right. Create a sport out of competitive angling. And I'm really thrilled to have the team that we have. I mean, our partners at, the Outdoor Channel, and everybody that's involved in this program has just been phenomenal. But, from the very beginning to create Major League Fishing format, what I did is I did away with everything that I was not satisfied with conventional tournament angling. Because what other sport is a true sport that you compete against other anglers, but yet you're in the dark? You have no idea to know, where you stand until you come in at the end of the day. So it's hard to make adjustments during the course of the day because you have no idea. And I've always made comments to people that you have to be careful because you can go out on a body of water and find a pattern that is just unreal, because I enjoy to fish and I like to catch them, but you end up at the end of the day, you catch just enough fish to get behind. Because while you're catching 3-pounders, everybody else is catching 4 and 5-pounders. And you had no idea that was going on. So with the Major League Fishing format, we incorporated the real-time leaderboard so that literally every fish that's caught is recorded, but you are also made aware of the fact of where you stand during the course of the day. And it gives the anglers an opportunity to make adjustments, to either downsize or upsize or get offshore or fish the bank. There's a lot that takes place. And the only thing that I can say is that I created it, had no idea how it was going to play. And the very first event we had on Lake Amstead, I made sure that I was in the first round of elimination because I wanted to live it, just to see if what we had created was something that we've all been talking about. And I lived it the first day, and it was like, wow. It was so fast. It was in your face. There were so many emotions that were going on throughout the day of competition. I've been hooked ever since.
Gary, on two fronts, one thing I'd like to say is, like, my girlfriend loves to fish, and JP's girlfriend, not so much.
No.
But I can tell you that I know in both cases, his girlfriend and my girlfriend, they love to watch Major League Fishing.
She does. She'll sit and watch it with me. She will.
Absolutely. Kristen will watch Major League Fishing. Savannah, I can't tell you how many times I've heard her say, I can't wait to get home. I got to watch the new episode of Major League Fishing.
It's DVR'd.
So, I mean, that is just phenomenal. And then on the other front, we've had a few anglers on here, guys, several actually, and everyone we've talked to, they love fishing Major League Fishing. I mean, they love that format. That's their go-to.
Well, what I tried to do with the format is I tried to create something that would captivate an audience by non-anglers as well as anglers. And it is the purest form of one-on-one competition that I know how to create. Literally, our anglers, me included, I have no idea where we're going. I'm not allowed to do any research. I can't gather any information. Even once I'm given the location. For example, we just finished competing 2 weeks ago in North Carolina for our 2019 Challenge Cup. And all I was given was the hotel check-in. And from the time I received that information, none of our anglers are allowed. I mean, I can't even look at a map. I can't Google. I'm real cautious about even looking at my navigation because I don't want to see any lakes in that area because I'm not allowed to do any research at all. And then even up until the morning of the first day of competition, I'm still kept in the dark until we actually roll into the launch ramp. Then we're all given, a map of the zone or the lake that we're going to fish. So what I tried to do is create an element where the viewer can watch a Kevin Van Dam go through his process of elimination to establish a pattern or find an area, because these guys are truly trying to figure something out so that they can advance to the next round. So it's heads up, it's pretty fast paced, and it is very exciting.
What you've done has obviously worked, and not only is that shown by the television ratings, but now the big change and what we really had to ask you about today is the fact that you guys now have your own circuit. It's not just something that these guys are doing on the side. You have drawn the biggest and best names in the sport directly to your series right out of the gate. What's it like coming out with such a big bang, and what can folks expect to see in 2019 in this new circuit?
Well, one of the keys, obviously, if you take a look at the roster of the anglers that we have for Major League Fishing, they are the best of the best. They are anglers that have devoted their lives to this sport. They have a passion for fishing. They enjoy the competition, but they're all industry leaders. And these are anglers that have, created a niche in this industry. So when you take a look at the roster of the anglers that we have on Major League Fishing, that right there just speaks volumes for the fact that we're getting it right. And every one of our anglers were personally invited to be a part of Major League Fishing by Boyd and I. We met with every one of them face to face, because that's something that we did not take lightly. What we were asking the anglers to do, to commit to Major League Fishing, is a career change. And, that's a tremendous amount of responsibility that goes along with it. But it just goes to show that we are getting it right, and anglers are engaged. And this is one of the first times ever that I've been involved in competitive angling where the true professional angler has a voice. They're the ones that are creating everything that we're doing is from those 80 anglers. And they're all engaged, they're all excited. And what we will do is elevate this to another level. Our venues are going to be different because we don't have weigh-ins. Our venues are going to have more of a PGA style event. So we're not restricted to be at a launch ramp or in a parking lot at a marina. Our venues will be set up inside the communities, and everything that we're doing will be live streamed, available to the public. It's free. And we're very excited. Our first competition on the tours, 2019, will start the last week in January.
We're going to be on the edge of our seat. I can't wait to not only follow it, but I want to attend one of these events. I didn't realize it was going to be, PGA Tour style, and I was curious. I wanted to ask that question, and you already answered it for me. So that's yet another thing that you've done for the viewer and the consumer.
Hey, I got a question, Gary. This is a good one right here. So, how do you get to be a referee on Major League Fishing?
That is a great question.
Well, our Major League Fishing officials are trained. They go to school. They're evaluated, and not everybody makes the cut. Actually, you can go online to Major League Fishing and just go. It's right there on MajorLeagueFishing.com. You can go to the website, and you can apply to become a Major League Fishing official. We will carry every event. It's the same officials. So we have a core group of guys that are going to travel the circuit with us, and we will have every MLF official will be trained and certified by the league.
Wow.
Interesting.
I mean, it's almost like a stick and ball sport where you've got full-time referee officials just traveling around. It's very impressive. Gary, I have to ask you this as well. Obviously, you've got dates coming up in January. Is this going to be a tour that's going to evolve every year? You're going to kind of change locations and rotate everything around, or are you going to stick with the same group and bodies of water?
You mean the same venues or the same group of anglers? Yeah, no, the venues will obviously will travel the country. And because of the format, we're not restricted to stay at conventional type lakes. We can go into a community that has smaller lakes and use multiple lakes within that community. So, we're pretty excited about that. We'll fish a lot of the really good reservoirs that we've competed on in the past with the Major League Fishing format, but we're also going to be able to go to a lot of really new venues.
I tell you what, I'm going to throw this out there, Gary. Look into it if you haven't already. Would love to see you guys come to like Patoka in Indiana or Monroe. They're not huge bodies of water. They don't get any attention from national circuits. You'd have a lot of good fans in Indiana would love that event.
Well, let me just say this. Please forward me that information, for that area.
We will.
And
absolutely.
We have a full staff that is actually on our site selections, and I would definitely like to look at something like that because we're not really restricted that much. We can travel around. We can fish, as we have in the past, multiple lakes, within those communities, because our Bass Pro Tour 80 angler competition, the format will be just like this. We'll have two groups of 40 basically a seeding position. So we have Group A and Group B. Both those groups will not compete on the same day. So I have Group A competing while Group B is off the water. Then Group B is competing, Group A is off the water. And it will be a cumulative weight of every scoreable bass, total weight, for 2 days of competition. At the end of the 4th day of competition, we're taking the top 20 from each group. They will compete on a 5th day, and we're calling that the knockout round. The top 20 from that group will advance to the championship. Or excuse me, the top 10 out of the 40 will advance to the championship, where 10 anglers will compete on the final day.
Nice.
So we're always going to have anglers at the venue working within the community. So, I mean, it's going to be pretty exciting for us. It's a lot of work, but our guys, all of our anglers are going to be engaged.
Well, I know Dave and I and all of our listeners, we're going to be pretty excited and keen on following this and see how it develops. We also want to give you the opportunity to tell everybody where they can keep up with this, where they can follow it and just stay up to speed and keep tabs on everything you guys have going on.
Well, everything that we have going on can be followed at MajorLeagueFishing.com. Go to the website, which is being completely redone. Our new website will be introduced after the first of the year. But, for example, all of our competitions will be available to the public. And if they cannot attend the event, then they can go to Major League Fishing, go to the app, and download the score tracker. And they'll be able to follow the game while it's being played from their office or while they're traveling, or even if they're abroad, they'll be able to pay attention to the competitions.
Awesome. Well, man, you have been. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, and plus every day we will live stream 5 hours every day of competition.
I love it. That's going to be unproductive days at work.
Yeah, your production's going to go even further down, Dave. Well, Gary, it's been an absolute pleasure, man, and you've been incredibly informative. And again, we have to thank you for your innovation, and we're going to point as many people towards this as we possibly can, and look forward to getting this episode out there.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your interest, and yeah, there's so much more to talk about, and we have so much more that is coming. Everybody's excited, and I think the public and the listeners are really, really going to enjoy hearing what we have coming out.
Well, hang with us through the break, Gary. We'll be back. You're listening to Pro Talk Outdoors. Hey, everybody. Thank you for hanging around on Pro Talk Outdoors. We had a longer open, catching up a little bit on deer season. We haven't been as active on the podcast because we've been chasing deer, and for a long time it was to no avail. So we had to catch up on finally having some success. And then we had absolutely engaging stuff from Gary Klein.
I like that guy. I like that guy.
He's real. He's 100% real, and he's so in touch with the consumer and the regular guy because, in my opinion, and I hope he doesn't take this wrong, he's a regular guy. He's a regular guy with extraordinary talent and foresight, and he has used that to change the entire landscape of bass fishing.
It's so interesting to watch Major League Fishing because it engages, and I think he said this at one point during our interview, but he engages everyone. You don't have to be a bass fisherman to be engaged and watch Major League Fishing. It's like watching a sporting event. You can see the score all the time. Mm-hmm. It's not like the old style where you got to wait till the end of the day, go weigh in, don't know what you got, don't know what everybody else has until you get to the weigh-in. But all day long, hey, I'm behind, I got to make a change, or I'm ahead, I need to play it safe, whatever. You know where you stand.
Right. It brings strategy into bass fishing in a way that it never did before. And another thing I love about it is it acknowledges the fact that every fish counts, essentially. I mean, it's like a little kid when he goes out to a lake. He catches a 12-inch bass, whereas if this is in a regular big tournament, you're disgusted and you toss it back in. But the little kid, it's a huge deal to him. Well, guess what? That fish counts in Major League Fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the cool thing is, as a fan, when you're watching Major League Fishing, I start finding myself rooting for the underdog. You become fans of these guys more so than what you do in a regular tournament setting, because there's so many different weeks where if they're fishing, one of the other series, like whether it be FLW or the Elite Series, they may or may not be a factor. And it's kind of hard to root for a guy when he's in 80th place, or he's just not going to make the cut. But you're never really out of it with Major League Fishing. You know where you're at.
You get hot.
You can get hot and just start catching a bunch of 2-pounders real quick, and before you know it, man, you're there.
Yeah, 100%. I remember back in episode, I think it was 2 seasons ago, where Ott Defo had an area where he knew he could catch some fish on soft plastics, but he couldn't get to it with a big fiberglass boat. He literally got out of the boat, into the water, and pushed his boat over this sandbar into where he needed to catch the fish, caught what he needed to catch to take the lead, and pushed his boat back out and made it back. It's that kind of stuff that you just don't see ever. And it really shows to me that there was so much untapped potential in the sport of bass fishing that now that they're really getting to, and I think there's only going to be more good things to come, and luckily we're going to be able to catch up with Gary to find out more later in the year.
The foresight that Gary and Boyd have
incredible
had with Major League Fishing, I'll kind of liken it to this a little bit. The World Series of Poker, up until 2003, I think it was 2003.
It was 2003.
Yeah, okay. Up until then, nobody watched that. It was boring,
right.
Boring TV. They figured out a way to make that a spectator sport,
it's on
and
TV
also
every year
it
now.
is blown up. I mean, there's games in every town every night. You can go somewhere and get in a poker game because of what has happened there. I gotta think that the same kind of thing on some level is happening with bass fishing and Major League Fishing.
It could easily romanticize the sport in a way that probably hasn't been seen since the mid-'70s or the '80s, and I'm going to welcome that because I've absolutely loved it since I was old enough to walk. I think some more folks are going to feel the same. We hope you feel that way about our podcast. I know we're going to be churning some more out here pretty soon as deer season will eventually slow down for us, and this kind of thing hopefully is going to ramp back up and really blow the lid off of 2019 because we've got big things coming.
Absolutely. Big news here, though. Or not big news, but a little bit of news before we get away from you here. Hey, go check us out on our Facebook page there. We're selling those inner red hats.
Yep.
And, we've got a boatload of them, and all the proceeds are going to conservation. So we want to make sure everybody gets an opportunity to we just announced it yesterday. We're going to sell those things, and they've been selling like hotcakes already.
They have.
So, $20 if you pick them up locally. If we got to ship them to you, we're going to charge you $25 to take care of the shipping. But rest assured, that money's going toward conservation. So it's a good cause, and a pretty sweet-looking cap, too.
Hey, no doubt. Also, tune in to an episode the first week of December. We're going to have Don Higgins on with a big announcement. But until then, that's all we're going to tell you. Hook 'em or hunt 'em. Pro Talk Outdoors.
Later, guys.